All right. Hello, my name is Michelle McMahon, and I'm the community coordinator for Empower Johnson County. We're excited to have you here today joining us for our communities talk, lunch, and chat. We're talking about underage drinking today. And I have Miranda Broomfield, who is our assistant community coordinator for Empower Johnson County, and Jim Engmark, who is the community liaison for the Johnson County Sheriff's Department. So I'm going to get started. Okay, let's talk about underage drinking. I wanted to share first who we are. We are Empower Johnson County, and we are a local community coalition who is working to reduce and prevent underage drinking and youth substance use in our community through advocacy, education, and enforcement. So why are we talking about alcohol use? We know that we have youth in our community who are using alcohol, but we also know that most of our youth are making healthy choices to not use alcohol before they are of age to drink. When we talk about alcohol, we need to talk also about the consequences of youth use. Sorry, my screen. Some of those consequences for using before you are fully developed are academic, social, legal, and physical problems. We know with academic problems, there are higher absence rates, they're at risk of having poor grades or failing grades, and even memory problems. When we were talking about those developmental problems, we know that our brains don't fully develop until we're much older than a teenager. And so we're not giving our brains time to fully develop and grow as if we were to wait to use substances. They're also at a higher risk for suicide. We know that alcohol and mental health problems and issues kind of run hand in hand. And so if youth are using alcohol to, for a number of reasons, maybe to self-medicate, so to speak, or just to have a good time, it could turn into something more, and it could create some health problems or mental health problems down the road. And we know that those who begin drinking before age 14 are more likely to experience alcohol dependence later in life. So let's talk about the rates of youth alcohol use in our community. So we get our data from the Indiana Youth Survey, which is done every other year. And this is data from 2018. And these are the past 30-day use rates. So if you're looking at, oh, I'm sorry, my computer is jumping. If you're looking at our youth use rates and what they're reporting using, our 12th graders, only 30% of them reported using alcohol in the past 30 days. And our 6th graders, less than 5%. So when we talk about these numbers, I mean, it's great to see that most of our youth are making the healthy decision to not use alcohol. So great news. Now we're going to talk about perceived risk of harm. So this means that if you think something is harmful, you're less likely to do it. So think about individuals who know that a stove is hot, and if you're to touch it, it's going to burn you. You're less likely to touch the stove. So we want our youth to perceive alcohol use, especially heavy alcohol use and binge drinking, as harmful. And so this chart just shows that our youth do report that they do feel like heavy drinking is risky in our community. So how do teens even get alcohol to begin with? So these are the sources that we have in Indiana, which is why we're having this conversation, because our youth are reporting different places in different ways. A lot of our youth that are reporting drinking are saying that they got it from a party, probably with either peers or near peers. So that might be someone who is 21 or older who is purchasing the alcohol for them. Some are reporting that their parents gave it to them, which is a big part of our conversation today. And then some actually took it from their house with parents or guardians unknowing, or they someone gave them money to purchase it and they bought it for themselves. So what is the big deal about social hosting and providing alcohol to minors? We have Officer Jim Engmark here with us today to talk about this. So Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for everyone for being here today and listening to what we can do to help our youth in Johnson County. In 2014, the Indiana Coalition to Reduce Underage Drinking, with the help of state senators, passed a new enhanced social host law. And today, that law includes a Class B misdemeanor if someone provides alcohol to a minor. Also, it is a Class B misdemeanor to provide a place for minors to drink, which include which includes doing it at the house. If you do a condo or if you do a rent a hotel, cabin, any place that an adult uses to supply alcohol to a minor, you can be charged with that Class B misdemeanor as well. It's a $1,000 fine for a Class B misdemeanor, and it is punishable in jail for up to 1 year. If you have a prior conviction of this charge, it would be a Class A misdemeanor, which is up to a year in jail and a $5,000 fine. And then if there's serious injury or death, it could be a Class 6 felony, which could be 6 months to 2.5 years in prison, not jail, but prison, and a $10,000 fine. So as you can tell, the worse it gets, the higher the charge gets, the worse fines and penalties there are. Adults and parents and guardians think that they're doing the right thing. You know, if I can watch the youth drink, I can keep them safe. Yeah, I can see where they're coming from when they say that, but is that truly doing the right thing? No, it's not, because you are giving them the opportunity to drink and being underage. So that's, to me, that's setting a bad example. Yes, you can watch them, you can keep an eye on them while they're drinking, but you're basically playing Russian roulette because eventually something bad can happen. They could, later down the road think it's okay. Well, I did it at home with my parents. I'm going to be at my friend's house. They're very, very good at keeping an eye on things. I'm going to do it here. And then it just continues to be a snowball effect, and it can get worse and something bad can happen. We talk about drinking and driving, but that only accounts for a third of underage drinking deaths. There's higher probability of other things happening other than drinking and driving with drinking and underage. And we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. You may think it's okay to do it elsewhere, as I mentioned before, if I'm allowed to do it at home. But when the youth does this, and again, they can go somewhere else, they'll think, okay, well, I'm in a good location. Somebody's going to keep an eye on me. It's a friend's parents, a friend's friend, adult friend, whatever the case is. But that just, again, causes that snowball effect. Things are going to start happening. That person might, the youth might leave the home to go home. They might want to go see a friend, and they think since it's not their parents, maybe they can, all right, I'm okay. I can go see my friends, or I can go out and drive, or I can go do this. That just causes more problems, gives an opportunity to, again, that drinking and driving, accidents, death can be involved in that. And we don't want that for our youth. Medical conditions, things that these conditions that the youth may have can be an issue with alcohol. It could be, somebody that has a mental health issue. It could be someone with already in a position of suicide. And no, we talked about suicide a minute ago, and I just wanted to throw this in here. Suicide right now in the youth is up 23%. So we do not want to give them another opportunity to have and have more suicide. We definitely don't want that. We want that number to drop. Medications, certain medications can be exacerbated by alcohol. Most of us know that if you're on a pain medicine or different things like that, we know that happens, but there are other medications that people just don't think about. They might have some kind of condition. Again, it could be a mental health condition. It could be, ADHD. It could be anything that they're taking medication for. Alcohol exacerbates those medications at a very high rate, and it just causes them to be able to not make good decisions. It also could cause very, very bad sickness, and then ultimately could lead to death, and that could be bad. Liability and lawsuits. We talk about if you are supplying alcohol to a minor, just think about all the consequences that could come along with that. You could go to jail. You could lose your job. You could be sued liable. You could be liable for that situation. You could be paying not only your fines for court and things like that, but you could be being sued by the parents of this youth if it's not your youth, or somebody else could sue you, and that could be a bad thing. So if they go out and have an accident, lawsuits could come from that, and again, that could ultimately affect your job. It could affect your social life and things like that, and we definitely don't want that to happen. So ultimately, what we want to do is we want to do the right thing, and I teach in the elementary schools every year, with the exception of this year because of COVID. But we teach the elementary kids. The first thing I do when I walk in and start talking to these kids is I tell them they got to do the right thing. If you do the right thing, the rest of your life's going to be golden. So all I can say is, please do not do the social hosting. I understand that there's parties, there's celebrations and graduations and sports parties and things like that. We just can't allow the drinking to go on to ultimately cause problems, cause injury, cause death, and again, suicide, different things like that. We've got to control that. Again, I think we have a wonderful county in Johnson County, and we have great collaboration with everybody that's in Johnson County. Empower does a great job. We appreciate them and what they do for our youth. And so please, again, just do the right thing. Please stay safe. And if you ever have any questions or need anything, please reach out to the sheriff's office. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim. We really appreciate you coming on here and kind of looking at things from a different perspective than we have, at this county coalition level. And so everything that you said is just so important and something that we want to make people aware of. And it's not something that we always get to talk about necessarily from the experience side of things that you have. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing that with everybody. This is a chart that we have in here just talking about the trends of monthly alcohol use among Indiana youth. So you can see that this is a trend from 1993 up until last year, 2020. So you can see that we are trending down and we are making progress. So this is something, like Michelle pointed out earlier, we really focus on the youth side of things at Empower, is that the majority of our youth are making really good decisions. And we're really proud of that majority. And we really encourage our youth, of all ages, using our Empowered Youth Coalition and different youth that we have that are kind of representatives of, be the majority, because like Jim was saying, you do the right thing and your life is so much easier, right? So being part of that majority is important. So, but we want to make sure that we're keeping these numbers trending down. And that's something that we talk to the youth about, but it also takes parents and the adults involved in these youth lives to help influence them. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you can, as an adult, really have that influence over our youth. So the biggest thing is just talking to them. It seems very simple and, but it's not something that's always an easy conversation for adults to have with the youth in their life. The biggest thing is we want you to talk early and talk often. We don't want people to save this up for this big talk about, these are my expectations about drinking right before prom or right before graduation, because at that point, more than likely your youth has already been approached with these opportunities, but we want this to be just part of your normal conversation with youth. The things that you're talking about with them in life, we want it to be just normal conversation. So starting in elementary school, just with, we always say, even at young ages, the best thing for your body is water. So drinking water is so important. And that's something that, you can start teaching your youth from a very young age, knowing that the best beverage that they can put, into their body is water. And then eventually that kind of will morph into conversations about why don't we want to put alcohol in our body. Like I said, as youth get older, the rates increase because the opportunity increases, right? They're going to be approached, they're going to be asked. So we want to keep talking and keep building on those conversations. If you don't talk to your youth, that also sends a message that we may not be intending to send. If we're afraid to talk about this, how do our youth know what our expectations are? And sometimes we think, oh, well, they should just know that drinking is wrong and we don't want them to do it. But have you talked with them on why it is wrong? Our youth are questioners. We teach them to question things. And so they need to know that reason why. Why should I not be drinking? Why do you not want me to? What's the danger? What's the harm? You know, what are the potential consequences? It's our job as adults to really talk that through with them so that they're aware and they know why they're making the decisions that they're making that are hopefully positive. And then being aware that, you know, as the adult role models in their life, that our actions also send a message. You know, if you are over 21, yes, you can legally drink. But if you have eyes on you from kids and youth, whether it's your own or others that you might be involved with, make sure that you're really modeling the behavior that you want to see out of them when they become legal to drink, when they are 21, making sure that you're drinking in moderation, that you're also not binge drinking. All of those problems that, you know, Michelle and Jim talked about before, all those health problems can also occur in adults as well. So making sure that you're drinking in moderation and making sure you're setting that example that you don't drink and drive. It's something that we tell our youth all the time, but let's model it. If you're out at dinner and you do have a drink with your dinner and you are an adult and you are over 21, then have the other adult that's with you drive you home. And make sure that you're modeling that. That shows your youth, what do you do when you are in this position? What is the right thing to do all of the time? And, you know, not drinking and driving, that doesn't have an age limit. We don't want anyone to be out on the streets driving after they've been drinking. So when you're having these conversations, what are our goals? What do we want to accomplish with speaking to our youth? The first one, like I've already mentioned, is setting your expectations. Youth don't know what they don't know. And if you have not been clear on your boundaries and your expectations, then don't just assume that they know what you're thinking. As any of you who have youth in your life know, the way sometimes parents or adults think is very different than the way our youth can think and process things. So making sure that they know that you are not okay with them drinking, you're not okay with them vaping or using other drugs, making that very clear that this is not something that you want as part of their life, and these are not decisions that you want them to make. So set your expectations and make sure that you're clear about them. Being intentional, showing that you care about the child's health and wellness. So this is such a big one, especially, you know, as kids are getting older. We don't want to tell them not to drink just because we want to make rules and we want to get them in trouble and we want to just dictate every moment of their life. They might feel that way sometimes, but we want them to know that we want you to not drink alcohol because we care about you. We want good things for you. So making sure that, you know, even outside of these conversations about alcohol and, you know, tobacco and vaping and other drugs, that you're checking in with them and pointing out the good stuff too. Checking out when you are seeing them drink water. Hey, I'm so proud of you for getting your water in. I'm so proud of you for taking care of yourself. You know, you're eating really healthy, pointing out all those good things so that it isn't always coming from a place of telling them what not to do all the time. When we're setting those expectations and telling them we don't want you to be drinking, we can also be encouraging the positive side of things and saying, you know, we don't want you to be drinking. And, you know, I appreciate that you do come to me when there are problems. So giving them some sort of motivation that lets them know that we're not just waiting for them to do something wrong. We're also keeping our eye out for what they're doing right because we care about them and we care about their future. Being direct. So we don't want to kind of, you know, beat around the bush, so to speak. We don't want to, you know, not be direct with them on what our expectations are and show them that you are a good resource for information. Our youth have so much information at their fingertips. So if we are not the one to give them information, they're going to find it somewhere. And so my advice to you is be direct. Sit down and have that conversation because you are caring about their future. You care about them personally. Whatever they're typing into Google or even asking their friend next to them, those things, those resources do not have the same care behind them that you do for this youth. And that's one of the biggest things I always want to encourage parents or, you know, coaches, teachers, anyone involved with a youth. Our youth are going to have times where they have to make hard to them decisions, right? They're under pressure. Their friends are asking them to do something they don't want to do or they know isn't right. You want your voice to be what is in their head. Because if it's your voice in their head and they can hear you because, oh my gosh, my mom has told me about this, we've talked about this, my coach has mentioned that this might come up, whatever that is, they're going to default to what have I heard about this and who can I trust the most? And if the idea in their head is balancing out a trusted adult, a trusted mentor, a trusted parent or family member versus something they just read on the internet somewhere, your thoughts are going to hold so much more weight to them. And so you want to make sure that voice is in there. If you don't have these conversations, if you're not direct with them, you're not intentional with them about this, your voice isn't going to be there. You can't assume. You want that direct conversation, that lasting voice in their head to be yours. And that can't happen if you don't have the conversation. So also just being involved, show you're paying attention. This kind of goes up to that, being intentional and showing that you care. Pay attention to what's going on in their lives. Sometimes it's hard for them to start a conversation with you. So you need to start the conversation with them. It's not always an easy thing, especially for youth that they sit in a classroom all day and they have, teachers asking them to talk about different things or answer questions. And then they're at lunch and then they might have sports or activities after school. They have a lot going on. So as the mentor in their life or the adult in their life that cares, make sure that they know that you're paying attention, that you notice when things are a little bit different. Because if they know that you're going to notice, they're going to be more conscious about the decisions they make. That discourages risky behavior. If a kid knows, I'm going to go out with my friends tonight, and when I get home, my mom's going to be there waiting, or my parents going to be there waiting, or even an older sibling, someone's going to be checking in and asking, how was your day? How was your night? What did you do? They know that they have someone kind of to answer to or talk to when they get home. They're going to be less likely to make risky decisions while they're out. If they know, hey, I'm going to go out and my parents are, they're going to be in bed. They're not even going to ask what I did tonight. It kind of opens that door for, I can maybe get away with something because who's going to notice? Who's going to find out? So making sure that you're staying involved and paying attention. And then last, teach them how. This is so important. Not only do we want to model those good behaviors, but you want to help your child build their refusal skills. The thing is that at some point in their life, they're going to be approached to drink alcohol. And what are they going to say? And if this is in a situation where they are underage, or even once they're 21, how do they react to someone asking them to do something they don't want to do? And as a parent, that's something that you can kind of help talk them through. Ask them, what would you do if someone approached you? More than likely, especially if you're having this conversation when they're younger, they're going to say, I'm not sure. I don't know. So kind of walk them through that. And I want to give you a few tips for that, just to kind of give and pass on to them if you're having that conversation. And the very first thing that I always tell youth is, if you're approached to do something you don't want to do, the first thing you need to do is just stop and think. So just stop. You don't have to answer right away. You need to stop and think. And when you're thinking about this, you need to think through any consequences that could happen. What would happen if I did do this? What would happen if I didn't do this? Because our youth have a lot of pressure on them. And so for us, we jump to, well, if you do this, you could get in major troubles, you could get hurt, all the things we're talking about today. But thinking from a youth perspective, if they don't do this, they might feel like I could lose a friend, or they're going to make fun of me, or someone's going to post something about me on social media. There's a lot of things running through their mind. So if you're able to talk with them about this first and talk it through, you can kind of give them the perspective that, yes, that's a possibility, but it's, it might be, it's worth that in order to not make a harmful decision. On top of that, I always encourage adults to let youth know, if you're in a group of people or you're with someone and they're asking you to do something that isn't right and that isn't comfortable and that makes you uncomfortable, more than likely someone else in that group is also feeling the same way. It just takes that first person to speak up. It takes someone else having the courage to say, you know what, I don't think that's a good idea. And then more than likely, there's going to be someone else in that group that says, yeah, I don't think so either. But it takes that speaking up. And so sometimes you have to be that person for someone else and for yourself in order to speak up. And when you do speak up, encourage your kids to just suggest another activity for them to do. So say it's like, hey, I heard, my parents are going to be out of town. Do you guys want to come over? I can grab, my parents have alcohol, stored in the basement, whatever it might be. Your child can suggest something else. That doesn't sound good to me. You know, they can use you as an excuse. My parents are going to be up. They're going to know. I'd be grounded for life. How about we just, you know, head to the movies instead? Suggest something else that they can do. There's all kinds of different things and different ways that you can talk to your youth about how they can refuse alcohol in a situation, or how they can avoid drinking and going to parties and drug use. But it takes that conversation. We as adults have had a lot more experience with this, and sharing that experience with our youth is going to help them make the decisions as they get approached with them.
Awesome. Thank you, Miranda. That was awesome. So now we want to open it up to see if anyone had any questions or wanted to speak and share anything that you've learned, or if you had any specific questions for Miranda or Officer Engmark or myself, we would be happy to answer those. Do we have any in the chat or Q&A?
Not yet, but feel free to go ahead and put them in there and we can share them out.
You can also, if you would like, you can also request to ask your question in person. We can allow you to talk if you had a question you wanted to verbally ask. So, yeah. And give it just a little bit if anyone has any questions. Great tips from Miranda. You can also find more tips at our website, on our website or on our Facebook page. We do a great little thing called Table Talk Tuesdays. And with that, you get just quick tips on Tuesdays on how you can talk to the youth in your life, or, you know, to help them make good decisions. So.
Yeah. And then I'll also say we do have a question coming in, but I'll also, for anyone who's on, we are hosting a youth town hall that is taking place next Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. So this is going to be presented by our Empowered Youth Coalition, and it's going to be youth speaking to youth on basically these same topics, but on why they shouldn't be drinking, why underage drinking, what are the consequences that can happen, and how it affects their life. So any youth who participates live next week will also be eligible to win gift cards that we're going to have from Walmart and McDonald's that we're going to be giving out live that night. So if you have a youth in your life, check out our Facebook page, check out our Instagram page at Empower Be the Majority, and you'll find one of these links. Also, you can just go to upstreamprevention.org and they can register from there. So the links will be posted on Facebook and stuff next week as well, but if they can get registered, their chance to win that gift card has been entered, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, awesome. So it looks like we have a question. Jim, could you speak to illegal consumption versus illegal possession?
Yeah. So other than the obvious illegal consumption, of course, is drinking it, and then possession is being possession of it. The biggest thing is if you are caught with alcohol and have been consuming alcohol, you can be charged with both charges. So, you know, consumption, I don't have the law right in front of me, but I believe that the consumption and possession is the same exact charge. It's a Class B misdemeanor. You know, underage, being under 18, you would have to go through the juvenile process and through the juvenile probation department and things like that. But as an adult, 18 to 21, you would be charged with those two charges as an adult, which would be the Class B misdemeanors and the up to $1,000 fine, and then could be up to a year in jail. So yeah, so there is a difference between the two, but they both hold the same charge, and you can be charged with both if you are in possession and have been consuming the alcohol.
Gotcha. All right. Did we have any other questions? Anybody else? Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming today, and I'm going to share our contact information here. If you want to get in touch with any of us, you can also find it on our Facebook page and our website. And we just really appreciate everyone who was able to join us today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up. Once this goes live and the recording, please share it with anyone who you might think could benefit from this information. I want to thank Miranda, and I want to thank Jim. And it looks like we have one person who who does have one other thing.
Thanks, Doug.
Just a congratulations. Thank you, Doug. So, all right. Thank you all so much for being here today. And I hope that
Somebody just raised their hand,
oh, we have somebody who raised their hand. Okay.
I thought.
All right. 1 second here to let Donald.
Hello.
Hi, Donald.
I just wanted to tell everybody, thank you so much for putting this together. I know it takes a lot of time, but I just want to thank all of you for taking that time and putting this presentation together, because I know it's very, very useful, especially for the parents when they're talking to their children. So just thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Donald. Donald Peak, the chair of Empower Johnson County. So we appreciate you, Donald, very much. So thanks everyone again for being here today. And with that, we're going to sign off. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.